Hey, Cincinnati, welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My name's Brian. I'm hosting the show tonight with a fantastic cast of characters that maybe you haven't seen in a while, which I'll introduce in just a moment. We're here to talk about the game against Charlotte last night. That's Cincinnati saw red. The card and the evil that we saw on the field and the response from the fans. It was crazy. It was a wild night at TQL for both teams, and we got a little redemption at the end of the game after Cincinnati dropped the match 1-0 when we saw the alumni roll out and play in a friendly match. For those of us that stuck around, was a great opportunity to relive some good old memories there at TQL. And the thing that surprised me most, I think, is the chant that my friend started there in the Bailey that had never been to a game before. And somehow, no, that didn't really happen. But the chant did catch on. We'll talk about that later in the show. Again, welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 432 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My name's Brian, here with Jason Ashcraft. Jason, welcome back, man.
It's been a while, man. I wish it was under better circumstances rather than talking about a loss. But yeah, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, good to have you. It has been a long time. I've seen your face and heard your voice here on the show. So always good to have you here. And somebody that hasn't been here in probably even longer than that, Nick Morgan. Welcome back, man.
Yeah, I think one of the last times I was here was when we were coming out of the Champions Cup and we were not getting our stuff together to start the season. I left. We got on a big roll, wound up on top of the supporter shield standings, and now I'm back after a loss at home. So it all comes full circle, gentlemen.
Listen, I'm not opposed to banning people like Justin Blair from the show. And if the fact is that every time you're here, Cincinnati is like on a downtick, maybe there's something to that.
I think the last time I was here was we were previewing the Nashville game and they won. And that was kind of the first big win of the season. So I'd like to think maybe I started something. So who knows? Maybe we go on a run now.
I love it. All right. We'll let you stick around. I blame myself, actually, because every time I sit in the stinking Bailey, Cincinnati loses a game. So I don't know that I'll ever sit there again, always on the other side of the stadium. So anyway, guys, we're going to get into our best and worst. We do want to thank Apollo Home, our sponsor for all that we do at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Give Apollo a call for all your HVAC needs. Mention that you're a CST listener and that Mike sent you, and they'll give you a discount on your service there at Apollo. Thanks, Apollo, for your sponsorship of the show and all we do at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. With that, gentlemen, let's move into our best and worst. Jason, I'll let you get us started.
I'm going to say my best of the night is the FC Cincinnati fans, specifically those who put together that awesome TIFO display before the match. If you get some free time, go on Reddit, go to the FC Cincinnati subreddit. Someone wrote an entire article about how they put the TIFO together from like concept all the way up till like building it and everything. Nick Haglin helped paint it. It was designed by a woman who has designed TIFOs before, but she lives in Austin. So she's like a fan who is displaced at the moment. It just superb execution. And I am floored every time they unveil a TIFO at TQL Stadium. I think there's no way they can top it. But this time it was great. And if you got that picture, like it looks like the smoke is coming out of the lion's mouth, just absolutely great. And they recycled the TIFO for the alumni match, which was the first TIFO from the MLS home opener. I mean, I thought that had been destroyed and they rolled it out. So kudos to the Bailey and everyone involved with all of that. That is the best fans in MLS. Right,
that was a lot of fun. And actually, that was my first time in the Bailey with the TIFO raising, right? And so the way that all the fans in the Bailey were a part of it with the banners we were holding and things like that behind the TIFO, just got everybody involved. That was a lot of fun. And also to see it afterwards from the front was actually pretty cool because from the back it looks way different. So your worst, Jason, that was your best. That's a good one.
Oh, what was my worst? I have to actually look at the notes. I wrote it.
He was so mesmerized by the tifo.
I'm trying to
Right?
think positives from this match. My worst is Echinique going down with an injury. Hopefully he's okay. I haven't really had a chance to look at any of the news today, so I don't know if there was any follow-up. But he was playing a decent game, and it just felt like when he took that knock and had to go out, a lot of the wind was kind of taken out of FC Cincinnati's sails. I mean, there was more to it than that, but to lose a guy like him, wish him all the best. Hopefully, it's nothing serious, and we can see him back on the pitch sooner rather than later. But to me, that was the worst of the evening. Leaving aside, yeah,
We're pushing pause on some of the worst here,
Yeah.
right? Because we'll get to more worst.
We'll get to
all
that.
agree
Yeah.
on
There's a
later.
lot of worst. Yeah.
Later in the show. Good there, Jason, on the worst. Yeah, it's hard to see Luka go down and not know really what happened, but he knew immediately too as he walked off what was happening. Nick, best and worst.
Well, I'll give you a mini best just based on Jason's comments there is, Ender coming in. Love the speed he displayed in this game. I think he's going to certainly unravel some defenses with a couple of those types of plays as the season goes on. But for me, my main best, I've got to shout out Pavel Buka, man. This guy is having one of the more impressive seasons that I've seen from a box-to-box midfielder since FCC has gone to the MLS level. And I think a lot of people were wondering when Obi went down with that injury, it's like, okay, how's that going to impact the midfield? He played a very specific role. Pavel played a little bit different. He's going to have a little bit of a different responsibility. Even with Brian Anunga, very capable defensive-centric midfielder coming in, Pavel, I think, has really stepped up his game, and he's played more responsible two ways. He's all over the ball. Like, you'll see him make a defensive play right there in the defensive 18. You'll see him go up and press randomly on the right wing somewhere. I'm just impressed by his work rate. I'm impressed by how much impact he has in different parts of the field. I love Pavel this season. One of the best seasons I've seen from him, and one of the best seasons I've seen from that type of box-to-box midfielder in a very long time.
Before you get to your worst, Nick, Pavel Buka, I remember watching early preseason matches and even his initial, even in CONCACAF Champions Cup matches earlier in the season. His touch on the ball really impressed me this year, more than I've seen it in years past. And just this, the way he moved the ball, with he's spinning around, keeping the ball at his foot. I thought he could be a fill-in number 10 if we needed somebody. And I haven't seen that much because we haven't needed him in that role. But these last couple of matches, he's shown flashes of that same brilliance that he showed earlier this season. So looking forward to, as we come down the stretch, what we see out of Pavel Buka, because he's got a lot to work with there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'll throw in another player who maybe didn't have that same impact, aka my worst, other than the officiating, which don't worry, folks, we'll get to that. And that's just, it's not to be rude, but it's Kai Kamara. He's just somebody to me that hasn't had the impact that I think FCC has wanted out of him over the past few games or so. When you sort of look at what you want from him, there's three main things. You want him to kind of make those stretch runs in that open up the midfield a little bit and challenge that back line. You want him to be sort of the aerial target man for those deep balls, those stretch balls. And you want him to sort of be the guy that presses, really challenges the opposing team's back line, forces them to maybe make plays earlier than they want to. And he's just not hitting on all three of those spots in the past couple of weeks. And to make matters worse, he's just not scoring. And scoring, I think, was a big issue in this game because, what was it? They outshot Charlotte 14-1 at some point before that. Brian Anunga red card came in handy and just nobody could finish the chances. It's to me, I love Kai, one of my favorite players ever in MLS history. I'm so happy that he's back, fulfilling the full circle roster prophecy for FCC this year. Just the past couple of games, and especially this one against Charlotte, he's just not impacting the game like you want him to.
Yeah, we've talked about him in game and on shows and about recent games, and I think the threat of Kai Kamara has stretched defenses enough in other matches to open up spacing for guys like Dado Valenzuela, allow Evander to do his thing. He hasn't played a whole lot with Kevin Denkey because Denkey went down soon after Kai got here. But it feels like the threat of Kai Kamara is waning, right? Like he's not fulfilling on that threat. And so maybe guys defenses are not paying as much attention to him. But the moment he puts a ball in the back of the net, which I have no doubt he will before the end of the season, maybe we'll see Kai come back alive a little bit. So good ones there, Nick. I appreciate that. We've got a couple in the chat. First of all, Cheryl Ayers says, thanks for your comments regarding the TIFO. A lot of people working very hard on each and every one of those. So good on you, Jason, for shouting that out. And for everybody that works on those TIFOs. Jose, our very own Jose Guerra says, his best was the alumni match. Worse, the inability to break down Charlotte's packed lines with a very honorable mention to the central ref. Yes, we will get there, Jose. And I hope, Jose, you are still in the comments when we do. Can't wait to hear from you on that. And Jeff Tebbets, he says his best and worst are brought to you by Acme. His best is the Roadrunner. Ender speed burning defenders, and his worst was we're Wile E. Coyote running into our own troubles. And the red card was on us. Yeah, we'll talk about that one later in the show as well. Jeff, thanks for that shout. And Jeff says he's in Carolina. Which one is he in? Is he in North Carolina? Is he in South Carolina? Who knows? Who knows where Jeff Tebbets is? Where in the world is Jeff Tebbets? Not a show. Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
Right.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Can you sing that for us? Yeah.
Awesome. I need 3 more for the rockapella cover band that I'm working on.
Okay. Awesome. I guess it leaves it to me, my best and my worst here as we wrap up this segment. My best, I'm with Jose. Having the alumni in the building was a lot of fun. Regardless of the match, I loved the match. It was a lot of fun. Brought back a lot of fond memories of FC Cincinnati in years gone by. But just having them in the building, there was a lot of hype around these guys just walking around, being present. I know Jose, I believe, talked to GB at Washington Park. I got a chance to talk to Kendall Waston at TQL and Deckel Kanan a little bit. So just having those guys in the building was just a lot of fun, and seeing them on the pitch was even better. My worst, I already shouted out my worst about Cincinnati losing every time I sit in the Bailey, but I will say, and we'll talk maybe later in the show, we'll maybe get around to it. And not a fan of the ire that was thrown at the referee from the Bailey. I'll just say that the chants that were happening there, I understand fans are angry. I understand fans are frustrated. But coach has mentioned this before, and I'll just echo what coach said in the past. Like, it doesn't do anybody any good, right? Just to scream F you, ref, and to have 3,000 people in the Bailey doing it. So for what it's worth, I know people may love me, people may hate me for saying that, but that's my opinion. I was there in the middle of it, not shouting, but I was looking around going, man, I think we can do better. As angry as we are, I think we can do better. So I'll leave it at that as my worst of the night there at TQL. Let's get into the match a little bit though, guys. Charlotte comes in. They're not necessarily on quite a hot streak. In their last couple of matches, they've not been doing so well, including their matches in the Leagues Cup here. And so they're not in best of form. Cincinnati, despite their form in Leagues Cup, has been building. It seems that, Evander's had a couple games with braces. We've been putting the ball in the back of the net. We're getting guys healthy again. Kevin Denkey's coming back. We've got, Ender. We've seen some of flashes of what he can do. We know what Luca Orishano can do. Like, I was super pumped to be there for this match and to be in the Bailey when FC Cincinnati scores a goal, and to be there and dance and chant and cheer and sing. And again, we didn't get to do that this week. So as you know already, Cincinnati walks away with a 1-0 loss at TQL to Charlotte. And let's get into what you guys saw. You were both there, like I was. And sometimes it's hard to, give some, at least for me, our impressions of the match from being there part of it. You don't get to see everything like maybe you do on television, right? So my take may be a little different than it would have been had I been watching on TV. But Nick, I'll throw it to you, man. As you were there at TQL watching this game against Charlotte, first half, Cincinnati looked pretty decent. They're creating chances, pretty positive. It seemed that we might win this game. What are you thinking as we're watching that first half of the match?
I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to win this game. I think that we just came out on the front foot, and you mentioned Charlotte had a big hole. They are without Beal, their top scorer going into this game. Up front, Wilfred Zaha hasn't had the best form, and they're still trying to figure out really how to replace Aubameyang up top. So they had a lot of stuff kind of going against them, and this is one where I think you entered the game kind of licking your chops a little bit. Plus, Charlotte has 3 wins on the road all year. They haven't been a good road team. So you get through that first half, and you just feel like, okay, the chances are coming. One's going to break our way. You love the energy FCC's putting out. They're getting balls in the box. It just never happened. And then the Anunga red card sort of shifted everything. That put Cincy on the back foot, and they had to survive. Still a few more chances after that, but you could tell that Charlotte was just sort of pressing. Like the game from a strategic standpoint changed. They kind of went more for the high press contain. They started stretching it a little bit deep, and I kind of think, the back three, they have some speed, but I think that's sort of been the issue when you have, Matt Miazga and somebody just going one-on-one long. The other guy has tend to beat whoever's in that back line. And I think that opened things up for Charlotte. And on that Zaha goal, it was, a break in down the wing that really started that whole danger chance. So to me, it just felt like FCC was on the good, things were going good. They were on the front foot, couldn't convert a chance. And as soon as that Anunga thing happened, that's where the lack of conversion on the chances really burned us.
Yeah. It seemed to me, right, as Charlotte got into the match, it seemed to me like they were on the front foot early on in the match. So the first 5-10 minutes, Charlotte had the ball in Cincinnati's half. And after that, Cincinnati regrouped and they were pushing forward. But Charlotte played a really, really high back line. They played incredibly compact. And I just wonder, this late in the season, as teams figure out how to play against other teams, is that a model for what we might see against other teams as we move forward? A really compact line, because it was really, really difficult. Granted, Cincinnati created some chances out of that, but it seemed that Evander, interestingly enough, I was looking up his player ratings on SofaScore, and he was the best player on the field according to SofaScore, and he usually is, right? But Charlotte did not give him much space to work with, and so he was trying to create in little tight pockets, which he can do, but I didn't think this was his best game that I've seen him play. And I think part of it is the compact nature of how Charlotte played. He needs a little bit more space maybe to work with, or other guys needs to see other guys in bigger spaces so they can play those really tight passes around there. So I think that was the biggest thing Cincinnati struggled with, was the tight space. We've talked about with the pressure, teams that press Cincinnati, we try to play in tight spaces and just have struggled to do that. And Charlotte puts FC Cincinnati in tight spaces all over the field last night.
And one thing I've noticed, and Jason, maybe you noticed this too, was it almost seemed like at certain points they had two guys sort of shadowing Ender.
Yeah,
it was interesting because you had one guy sort of pressing him, playing right off him, and then you almost look at whether it was the center back or the midfielder playing deep. It was almost like shadowing him, like kind of moving in, almost like in football, the cover two, the man over the top. And I wonder if teams are just starting to play that way. Like it just seems like Evander's not getting space to do anything, and they don't want to put anybody one-on-one with him.
Yeah, and that is something I noticed too. They were doing a good job of clogging up passing lanes. They now that you mention it, I do kind of remember it did look like they were doing sort of a cover two on Evander. Another thing that I think Charlotte did well is it seemed that they forced Evander to kind of get out of position a few times in the match. Like I noticed he, according to FOTMob, Evander was the only player for FC Cincinnati above a 7. But I noticed there were a lot of times where Evander wound up on the wing. And not saying he can't play that position, but he wasn't in my opinion, a very dangerous spot in the middle where you want him. There were lots of times, especially after that red card and after like we were fighting for a goal, where he's out wide and there's no one there to kind of distribute in the middle. And that might have had to do with just Luka going down. That might have had to do with Ender moving up to be up top. I don't really know, but when I don't think that's a position that Evander really is that comfortable in. And when you don't have a guy like Kevin Denkey out there to, help be a threat in the box, you're going to be able to put more guys on Evander until someone proves that you can't. And unfortunately, there were a few sitters that we missed that, proved that it doesn't matter right now. So
yeah, the chances Cincinnati did create, though, there was a lot of that dink passes, like guy up front, guy running onto it, like these 2-yard passes that the ball was just bouncing around. And it seemed to me that those are things that they've been working on. Yeah. It like the positioning, the runs, everything looks like it's something that they've been working on in training, between matches. But the personnel that were in those spots at that time didn't seem like it was guys that have played together a lot. Mm-hmm. And so, Ender's in there at times. And then you got Steven Jimenez that comes in later, and he got in some tight spaces with Evander, and the timing just didn't seem like it was right. And when the timing was right, it seemed like they wanted to make one extra pass instead of shoot the ball. So there were times that, even Evander had it top of the box or Buka had it top of the box and didn't pull the trigger because they were looking for that one last pretty pass to get the ball through, which on one hand is encouraging to me that Cincinnati is looking to develop these combination plays inside the box, get in and score goals. But at some point, somebody's got to pull the trigger. And to be fair, they did. We had chance after chance there, way more shots than Charlotte. Would you say 14-1 at one point?
I think it was 14-1 when the red card happened.
Yeah, total shots is 17-8, according to SofaScore. Cincinnati created 1.7 xG to 0.56 xG at Charlotte, and so that's been the story all season. Right, as coach has been tracking XG, that Cincinnati underperforms and they allow other teams to overperform. Yeah, and that was the story of the match. A lot of that had to do with post red card, as you mentioned, Nick. There,
one thing I do want to point out about Evander, and this made me giggle in the match. I thought it was hilarious because of all of the flopping and acting and stuff that Charlotte was doing. There's a point in the first half where Evander gets injured. He gets knocked down. He acts like he's injured in a dangerous spot. And he and Luka lined up for a free kick about 20 yards out to the right side of the goal, if you're looking at the goal. And then Evander curled it, and the goalkeeper for Charlotte, who was their man of the match by far,
absolutely.
Yeah, had to make like a worldy save to keep it from going in the top corner. Like Evander was acting like he was sitting there holding his stomach or something, acting like he was hurt, and then bam, like just right off the gun. That cracked me up. I'm not a huge fan of like being overly dramatic as a player, but when he did that, I giggled. I was like, that he was playing possum. I love that sort of stuff. It's okay when our player does it.
It's, at the end of the match when he got his card, I think in the 97th, like the 97th minute of the match, he finally snapped. Like he's a guy that's very calm, cool, and collected, almost too much so, we've talked about here on the show, but he snapped. He had enough at the end there, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later. again, the guys that missed, Cincinnati created a lot of XG. Ender really impressed me, right? He got in on goal a couple times and just missed a couple, one wide. I think keeper saved one. But he's a guy that I can't wait. We've talked, I've heard some chat about, Ender for Luca Orishano if we need a sub, right? But can we get both of those guys flying down the wings at some point this season? Like, that would be great. If a team's going to play as compact as Charlotte's going to, let's get two guys on either side of the field that can take the top off and let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put it on our Slack channel, like a hypothetical lineup, like last week, I think, where I imagined Luca and Ender kind of both in the lineup at the same time, with Luca as a just true winger. But that would also involve taking one of the strikers out. You'd have to find, obviously Kevin Denkey would be your go-to striker, but it seems like they're wanting to play with a hold-up striker. So I think one of the issues that is going to plague that left wing, even with Ender, is how good is he on defense? But we saw, I think, Lucas Engel over the past few weeks, he's been really doing a good job of filling in on that side for when Luca goes forward. So yeah. I think there are options, and I like Pat Noonan, I think he's kind of married to the system that we have now, but I'd love to see a way to get both Ender and Luca on the pitch at the same time.
Even if it's late in the game and we're gunning for a goal, right? Yeah. Lucas Engel's been doing well at that left center back position. If we can get two guys on the side and just press and press and press and press, I think we'll see some things happen. Now, does it expose us in the back? Absolutely. So do we start that way? I don't know. But late in the match, man, I would love to see it, as long as Luca's back on the pitch here soon, the two of them out there flying down the wings and just seeing what kind of havoc they can create against opposing defenses. Nick?
Yeah, I'm with you there. There's a world in which you could kind of play Luca as that sort of that rush striker, the guy that makes those runs, goes forward a little bit, opens things up for Denkey. And if he's the guy that's kind of sitting it back a little bit, you can put him on that left side with Ender, play him off Ender the same way that Lucho Acosta played off Luca last year, or Barreal the year before that. Try to get some of that chemistry on that wing, give two speed options that can kind of cut in. I'm interested to see. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think Pat's going to change anything mid-season or anything like that, but it's a pipe dream. And hey, if I'm playing FIFA, yeah, I'm going to try that all day.
Oh man. And we had, Alvis Powell come in late on the right side. He always plays with pace. He got in a couple times around the back side of the defender and sent balls across, which we had opportunities. Miles comes in off a cross and almost puts one in, and Kalina makes another great save. The guy played well. The goalkeeper played well in that match. And had it not been for that crazy save on Evander's free kick, that crazy save on Ender's shot, the crazy save, reaction save on Miles Robinson, Cincinnati may have won that match 3-1. It was a wild game in that sense. And it's hard to remember, as I walked out of the stadium last night, again, this is, you watch it on TV, you see all of this. And, I'm jumping up and down in my living room and I'm only remembering the shots on goal. I'm walking away from the Bailey last night and thinking, we played terrible. And then you go back and you go, actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was,
Just couldn't finish.
Just couldn't finish. The part of the match that we've all been alluding to, and maybe we all want to talk a little bit more about, is the refereeing and the discipline that was shown in that match. So Cincinnati walks out of that match with 4 yellow cards and 1 red, and Charlotte walks away with 1 yellow card, which I didn't remember how many they had just in the match last night. I knew it was lopsided till I went back and watched it. The fact that they only got 1 really, really, really surprises me. Felt like a really lopsided refereeing match there. So let's talk a little bit about it. I don't know that we need to like dig our claws into the center ref or anything, but I do think there is an issue maybe in this match and in other matches we've seen in MLS. So talk about what you saw last night, and then maybe that'll spring into a larger conversation about refereeing in Major League Soccer.
I'll go first. Why
Tee
not?
it up, man. We're teeing you up.
You knew it was going to be a bad night from the jump for the center referee, for the entire crew. He never asserted himself. I don't even remember the guy's name. I could look it up. I got Font Mob right here, but it from the jump there was this. It seemed like this idea that Charlotte could flop when be fouled, soliloquy and remonstrate over everything that happened to him. And FC Cincinnati wasn't going to get the benefit of the doubt on anything. And, one time I was working a college baseball game, and the baseball coach for my school that I was working at went up into the umpire's face, started screaming at him for a blunt call. And the umpire was like yelling back. And the coach said, "You've been terrible all night, but be terrible both ways." And it seemed to me, and that's what got him kicked out. But it seemed to me like there was an obvious need for the center referee to protect Wilfred Zaha. To if anything that came near him was a foul. That sort of care was not given to Evander. And I'm not saying always protect the stars. You should be impartial. But like you said, at the end of the match, Evander finally lost his cool because of everything that had been happening to him the whole night. And I remember looking at my wife, like right before halftime, I said, "There's going to be a red card. Like this match has red card written all over it, just because of how chippy he was letting it get from the jump."
Mm-hmm.
You were right. Yeah,
you were right. Jason, do you hear that often? You were right.
I don't hear it enough.
Yeah.
In fact, at one point in the match, early on in the match, I turned to my buddy that was next to me and I said, "Man, he's letting them play. Like he's just letting things go. They're getting chippy. They're pulling jerseys. There's a lot of pushing until Zaha gets down. And okay, there's a card or there's a call or whatever." And then it just seemed like everything was leaning towards calls were being called towards Charlotte. Again, referees have their eyes on a lot of the match that maybe we're not seeing. But from our standpoint, man, it sure felt like it was a lopsided refereeing match. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Look, I'm going to come in here with some nuance. My first ever job was being a soccer ref. I started when I was 12 years old. I did it all the way up till I was 19. Had my fair share of parents and coaches similar to the experience Jason just shared. Hopefully it wasn't you, Jason, that was doing that. But if I
was a soccer referee once too, so
okay, yeah.
I can commiserate with that.
Yeah. I was a soccer referee like once, like one game, like maybe two. That's all I lasted, Nick. So kudos to you.
Had a guy follow me to my car one time. So
either way, hopefully, I assume holding a big pizza as he's doing it.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, but no, that experience. I respect the human element in officiating. I respect that the refs are going to screw up some calls here and there. I think the biggest thing to me, there's two issues, I think, with just the state of officiating. We're talking about the MLS. I think this could be true for any sport. It's consistency and it's accountability. Think about any league. You get fined as a coach or a player. You get in more trouble for saying you don't agree with the call than the refs do for actually screwing up the call. And how many times have we seen a league go back? It's happened to FCC multiple times in the past couple of years where the league has gone back and said, "You know what? That was the wrong call. Our bad." Like we acknowledge a wrong call, but the ref doesn't have any sort of accountability for it. It's just like, yeah, it's screwed up. Oh, well, here's your next game. There has to be some accountability. the same way, you know, a coach would hold a player who screwed up accountable. There has to be that, and there's just not in the MLS right now. There's really not in any league, and that's why you're seeing all this controversy. I do want to talk about, you know, let's talk about the red card itself. If you're just
before we get into the red card,
Sure.
I will say this. I spoke with David Gerson from Refs Need Love 2 on another show that I do, and talked a lot about the human element and the things that referees are watching. And I get that, like 100% get that. Like the one game I remember refereeing, Jason, I wasn't followed to my car, but what happened to me was a ball hits just outside of the net. There's a hole in the net, like it's like rec soccer, and like there's not great nets, and so it was hard to see if the ball went in front of the post or behind the post through this hole, and it ended up in the back of the net one way or the other. And I remember thinking, somebody should call that. I wonder what they're gonna say. And I realized I'm the one holding the whistle, and I had to make the call. And I sat there and I made the call that I thought that, you know, it didn't go in, it went behind the post, whatever. And people are screaming, like the parents that were on that side defending, like were in my ear. And I'm surprised no one followed me to my car. But Jason, I say all this to say the ref that came to do the game after us was not a referee that, as I played the game, respected as a player, but he was coming to ref the next game. He saw what went down, and he came over to me right then after the game. He put his arm around me and he walked me, you know, off the field. And he said, you know, I was a young kid at the time. And he goes, you know, sometimes when I'm not sure what call to make, I just listen to the parents. And I thought, that is terrible advice. And imagine if MLS referees just listened to the home fans and made the calls that they were like, oh, you're right, I probably should go the other way. Like they do withstand a lot of criticism and a lot of that. But the fact, like the accountability, I think, is a huge issue that I think you brought out. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring up that story. And that leads me to this. I just learned the IHSAA, the Indiana High School Soccer or High School Sports Association and Athletics Association, that's where I work, live, and play here in Indiana. And I'm coaching at a high school here. Just learned that the IHSAA instituted a 3-day review period. So at the end of every season, every high school coach could review referees that ref their matches all season. Now they don't have to wait till the end of the season. Up to 3 days later, they can send in a review of the referee of that match. And so it is good to see, at least at that level, there's some accountability coming into the game. And I don't know what that looks like in Major League Soccer, what that looks like in other sports and other levels, but I'm excited to see that at our high school level here in Indiana.
I'm going to bring up the story of, does everybody know who Jim Joyce is?
No.
He's a former Major League umpire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guy behind one of the worst calls ever made in Major League Baseball. That was the Andres Galarraga last out for a perfect game, calls the runner safe. He's out by a mile. The next day, he walks out on the field at Comerica Park, Tiger Stadium, to a standing ovation. And do you know why? That night, the night of the blown call, where the players are running in there yelling at his face, boos are coming down, he goes out there in front of cameras and just says, I screwed up. I screwed this guy out of a perfect game. It is absolutely the wrong call. This is on me. I feel bad. The next night he goes and gets a standing ovation from the crowd. It's just that simple accountability, that simple, you know what? That was on me. That was a bad call. We didn't get this right. And that's something that I don't think we see from any level of officiating anymore. You'll hear like league statements. So-and-so admits, penalties should have been awarded on this play at 87 minute, but you don't see the league come out and be like, you know what? We reviewed it. The refs got it wrong. it's we need more of that if we're going to fix this inconsistency.
Yeah, and the only time that referees, I used to work in college sports. I used to work in as a comms director for a Division I conference, so I've got some experience like how officiating works, kind of on the back end, at least in that regard. And there is a review period. I remember distinctly at the conference that I worked at the Big Sky conference, we had an extensive review period for our men's and women's basketball officials at the end of the season. And we actually went into an agreement with, it was sort of like a version of pro referees. It was like us and the Big West and the Pac-12, like banded together to get officiating, like officials. And that eliminated some of the poor referees. One of the biggest issues, though, and this is the issue that I have as a college basketball fan, is that there is no accountability. The referees only do one question or one comment to a pool reporter after the match. They just write their answer on a piece of paper and hand it over. There's no like back and forth, no follow-up. And they, there's that. And then there's, in my view, especially with pro referees, there's this idea that they are somehow the third team on the field. That somehow, and we've heard comments from pro referees that say that, and we'll get into a red card, but I've just got to get this off my chest. Yeah. That we've heard comments, Chris, remember when they were on strike a couple years ago, we were all supposed to, not like the scab referees. And as a pro union guy, it was hard for me to swallow that. But they talked about during that time, we see ourselves as a third team. We help create narratives and flow during the match. And this is something I see in college basketball too, but I'll save that. They see themselves in like a different light than just the person who is there to umpire the match, to call the calls. And screwing up happens. I messed up at work today. It wasn't a big deal, but I made a mistake and I fixed it. But it's the attitude with which they go about refereeing the games. We've got Tim Ford, who is a pro referee, who has been seen at LAFC matches and tweeting about how it's his happy place. We had an NWSL head coach kind of do a subtle middle finger to pro referees in a post-game interview just the other day. USL fans are complaining about this because pro deals with them too. We've had pro referees get caught wearing Messi jerseys. It's a level of professionalism that, like Jose said in the comments, if MLS wants to be taken seriously with the top 5 leagues in the world, they can't have referees acting like this around the game. And it goes, to me, it goes beyond just messing up calls. Because I think the red card was the correct call by the letter of the law, but it shouldn't have happened.
That's, if I may dive in to segue into the red card itself.
Do it.
Served it up for you, buddy.
If you're just looking at what Anunga did, yes, that was a red card. I agree. The problem was the 10 seconds preceding that play never should have happened to begin with. There was 2 fouls on Buka and then another one on Anunga. And then it wasn't until Anunga off balance trying to make a play gets his foot up there that causes the red card. And that to me is sure, like, yes, you look at the VAR, you look at the play. Yes, what Brian Anunga did is a red card. My point is it should never have happened to begin with. The play should have been dead at least 5 seconds before that.
Yeah, and that puts a player in jeopardy by not making the right call early. Because had Anunga messed, like, he hurt the guy a little bit, but he could have legitimately hurt that Charlotte player had he stepped a little bit higher or a little bit lower. You're 100% right. And it's because the official did not take the time to assert himself at the very beginning of the match and, be a good referee from the get-go. You had a situation where he's like, I don't know, maybe I should play advantage, when there was no advantage.
Right.
And it endangers a player, and it completely derailed FC Cincinnati's momentum and Pat Noonan's game plan from that point forward.
Yeah, and if he would have just called some of those earlier, like how many times did we see a pretty clear, like intentionally break up the play of foul down on FCC's attacking end, and he just comes in and he's like, that's the second, that's two on you. Yeah. Pull the card out, man.
Yes.
Like, pull the card out, and you don't get to 3 if you pull the card out at 2. Don't give me hand signals. Pull the card out, and you don't have the game lose control like it did.
Yeah. 100%. We have a comment here from Kenta that I wanted to get to. Is a question that I have been pondering myself. He just asked, should delaying calls, like delaying offside calls and playing advantage, things like that, should they go away? Have they created more problems? I'm adding to his question here, but have they created more problems than they're worth? And where I'm coming from on this question is I like the call to offside calls because sometimes they're obvious and they let the play go, and a keeper ends up getting in a really dangerous spot with a forward coming, attacking a big collision when you could have called that 10 seconds ago because he was 40 yards offsides, right? Like there's opportunities like that we're missing because we're letting plays play out. Now this particular one with Brian Anunga, I think it was Laurel was tweeting about this, or, and saying that the players had received 3 different explanations from the refereeing about that play. Like I was playing advantage or I wasn't playing advantage. I was just letting it play out just to see, but I knew it wasn't advantage. I was just letting it go. And I think, I don't know if it was somebody said Miazga reported that he turned to him and said, yeah, I missed that one or something like that. I don't know. I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouths, but there were 3 different explanations for that one play and why that happened. And I think that's the confusing part of this whole thing, right? For me and the rest of the Bailey and maybe the rest of the TQL stadium, when Brian Anunga gets sent off and Cincinnati gets the free kick, we thought, what in the world just happened? And again, the explanation, I get it, but oh my word, if you're going to give our guy a red card and give us the ball back, like you're admitting right there, like I made a mistake. I should have called this one before this even happened. So we could go on and on about this, guys. And I don't want to like just keep beating it till, beating a dead horse or whatever, but we know there's an issue. We know something needs to change. We know there needs to be some level of accountability here, because a good ref can make a game very, very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
A bad ref can make a game like last night. Very and disruptive.
To put like just another little point on it, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is player safety. And referees are there to enforce that and punish, violations of that safety. We had a match earlier in the year in Atlanta where Nick Haglund, God love him, I'm glad he's back. His career could have been ended by what would have been a flagrant foul,
right?
And there was no call. Nick was then told to walk further than he needed to. I mean, so I think I'm not a big fan of cursing out the ref as a crowd, but seeing is what we've seen this year from pro referees. And in the past, when pro referees actually told Pat Noonan, hey, you blew it after they blew a clear offside call. I think that was 2023 season, maybe. I think we have a few like gimmies. We're allowed at least one really good cursing out of pro referees after all the crap that they've put us through over the years.
Yeah, well, that was a good one last night. Then we got it out of our system.
No disrespect, it was pretty... Brian, to your worst, but I felt great after that chant.
I'm sure many people did. Many people did. But anyway, hey, we've got to thank Beyond Exercise, guys, as we continue on with our show here. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury free. They've helped some of our local MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at Go Beyond Exercise. Thankfully, that game against Charlotte was not the way things ended for some of us that stuck around at TQL last night. We had an alumni match there in the stadium on the pitch. Fun to see so many of those guys back in Cincinnati wearing the orange and blue kits. Just again, I've mentioned it before earlier in the show, just the memories of seeing these guys play other games. You know, it shouts back to US Open Cup runs with the GB double doink that put us past Columbus, you know, games against Chicago Fire at, you know, Nippert Stadium. They had speaking of Nippert Stadium, they had the throwback scoreboard that looked like Nippert Stadium last night, which I think Cliff, I don't know if you're in the chat tonight or not, but Clifford was really upset. He thought it looked real and wondered if they were going to play an NFL exhibition game in there because it had the, you know, the down marker or the downs and to go and all that up there. And yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, Cliff. But again, the alumni match was a lot of fun. Nick, I know you were there for the first half of it. Jason, I'm not sure if you stuck around. I was there till the end because I wasn't leaving until that game was over. I wanted to see it. Had to see Manu score. Had to see, you know, GB take an attempt. GB, I think, opened it up. I think with the first goal of the match. I could be wrong on that. But a pretty fun game to watch, which makes me think, guys, as we look back on our fandom of FC Cincinnati, the guys that were there, who were you most surprised to see?
Oh man,
most surprised to see, like in terms of just like I can't believe that guy came, or I can't believe
they were back. I can't believe they were back tonight for this game. For me, it was GB Fall. Like I was shocked that he was there, but man, it was good to see him there.
Yeah, I guess Kendall Waston, because wasn't he playing professionally as of like last year?
Yeah, recently, I think he was.
Yeah. So I think that was the biggest. It's like, oh, it's good to see him playing an alumni game.
But he didn't play. He was there. Play? He was he was there in jeans and a kit, but he never saw the field.
I didn't have my glasses on, so
maybe he's got to save it for next season because he's still playing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that it was also just good to see Deplange again because
that's my shout. Yeah,
we were talking off camera about just obscure players that we all randomly love for no reason. Matthew Deplange from those first couple of seasons was mine. I loved watching him play. Not saying he was the best player ever, but he was just a fun guy to watch. So it was good to see him back out there.
Yeah, shout out to Jonah from Knifey Lion Radio fame because he shared his SoundCloud a while ago of all the songs he made on that podcast, and I went through and listened. But the Matthew Deplan song that he wrote, just wonderful. I listened to that one. That he was my shout. That I was like, "Cause surprised this guy showed up."
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah, he looks like he can still play too.
Yeah.
Like he was streaking down the right side, and I think he had the assist on one of somebody's goal. I forget. I'm trying to remember which team he was even on. I think he was on the white team.
So the white just team dropped in the chat about Kendall that he plays for Saprissa still. So they had a match.
Right. That's right.
They had a match on the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
I'm even more surprised.
We could see them.
Yeah.
Saprissa is usually a CONCACAF Champions Cup participant. So there's an off chance that this coming season we could maybe see Kendall Waston.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't know that we ever talked about this publicly, but Kendall Waston was supposed to be on our show earlier this season. And a couple times we've talked to him and we've tried to schedule things. And so he's excited to be on. And I believe, if I remember correctly, and anybody on CST that was part of helping schedule him on the show, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the night he was supposed to be on the first time, we were sitting there waiting. It's 9:15. It's 9:20. Is Kendall coming on? We're not sure. I looked him up the next day, and dude was playing a game that night. And like we just weren't aware that he was even still playing. We should have known. And so he skipped CST because he was on the field with Saprissa. But fun guy. Like, I talked to him a little bit last night. They're just fun guys that appreciate what Cincinnati had, or what they had when they were here in Cincinnati with the fan support. A lot of these guys, several of these guys I talked to last year at TST, and Cincinnati showed up for Natty SC down there at the soccer tournament in Cary, North Carolina. Some of these guys played down there and just were, again, just super appreciative of the fans that traveled to watch them play in the 7-on-7 tournament from Cincinnati, Ohio, that they, haven't been back to visit in 6 years or whatever. Like, guys that helped get what we get to see and cheer and complain about. These guys are the ones that got all of that started. And so just fun match to watch last night and see a lot of them back out there. But again, got me thinking, and we've got a couple minutes left here. If we could choose our best 11 FC Cincinnati alumni pre-Pat Noonan. Thank you, Jeff Tebbets, for that little, that boundary on our best 11 pre-Pat Noonan era. Who would we go with? And among the three of us, like, I would love for people to chime in the chat here. Who would you go with? Who would be in your best 11? But among the three of us, let's start with our goalkeeper and work our way forward. In the next 2 minutes, we don't have a lot of time to think about it. Who are we going with? Goalkeeper.
Mitch says no.
Yeah, Mitch.
Yeah.
Mitch, absolutely. All right. Mitch in the goal. Center backs.
I'm going to have to give Jeff Cameron a shout. Even though he is not pre-Pat Noonan.
I think he wasn't he? Didn't he come in?
He did come in pre-Pat Noonan, but he did play for Noonan.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at history, will show that he was one of those pieces that kind of turned it around. So I've got to give Jeff Cameron a shout as one of our center backs.
I'm going to go Harrison Delbridge.
That's a good shout too.
If you remember Harrison Delbridge there back in the days, getting the team started.
I would say Forrest Lasso. That's my pick.
Ooh.
He's still playing too, isn't he?
I think he is. Yeah,
he was playing for the Rowdies for a
while. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going.
Jeff Tebbets has Deckel Kanan.
Yep, the Deckel
Smash.
Yeah,
so there's your four. We're going 4 center back.
No. So here's the thing: we're going pre-Pat Noonan era players, but we're going the Pat Noonan formation. So we got 3 center backs between the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Who are our left and right wing backs?
Was McLaughlin kind of played a wing back from time to time, right?
I think so. I would go Jimmy. I would go Jimmy on the right side. Who are we putting on the left?
Oh no.
Oh, God.
That's a tough one. I could go Duplan.
You could go back to Flange. That 9 months that Andrew Gutman was really, really good.
Yosu, good shout. Just to get those Torello Blasters fans in the chat.
All right, so we've got Jimmy on the right. We've got a starter and a sub on the left side. Okay, I'm going to go with the plan on the left there, and we'll go. Who'd you say, Nick, on the left?
I would say Duplange. I wanted to say or Andrew Gutman.
Okay, Gutman. Gutman's our sub there on the left side. Central midfielders are 6 and 8.
Oh, we're not to them yet. Oh man, that one's tough too.
Would you consider Corbin Bone an 8?
Yeah,
I think so. That. I could go.
You got to give Corbin Bone a shout.
I would say, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anybody from those early MLS teams.
Caleb Stanko.
That were
Leo
Bertoni.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Alan Cruz.
We got Alan Cruz. We got Mike LaHood in the chat there.
Oh yeah, Michael LaHood was definitely Mike LaHood because he was a big part of that Shield winning team.
Yeah.
In USL.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd go Mike LaHood there. Okay, so we got Mike LaHood and we've got Corbin Bone. All right. At the 10, are we going Emmanuel Ledesma?
I don't think there's any question that you have to go
Unless you say Lucho Acosta was technically acquired pre-Pat Noonan.
Yeah, nope, we're not going there.
Okay,
we're going earlier than Lucho. Too obvious.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going the other Argentine in Manu Ledesma there. All right, so we've got that. What are we got two up top then?
I think so.
Yeah. I feel like Danny Koenig.
King Koenig.
Yeah.
He was FC Cincinnati's leading scorer for quite a while, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, two really good seasons.
Got to get the scissor kick in there. The first ever goal.
Yeah.
For FC Cincinnati.
Shauna Coley.
Yeah.
Shauna Coley. I was surprised he wasn't there. I don't know where he's at or what he's up to, but I was surprised not to see him last night.
That goal, not only was it a great goal, but just the historic nature of it.
Yeah.
And how great it was. You can't, if we're going to build a statue outside of TQL Stadium, I think that should be the statue.
Yeah.
Him doing the scissor kick.
It was pretty phenomenal. It was cool to watch, like to see it, streaming on ESPN Plus or something at the time, whatever they're streaming on.
YouTube.
Or being there in the stadium to see it. It was pretty fun. Yeah. We got a couple shouts for Harris Medunianen in the chat there. How about Harris? Yeah. So thanks for playing along. That was fun just to see those names.
Andrew Wiedemann, I don't think we mentioned him anywhere.
No, he played last night. Again, lots of fun. Thanks for playing along. If you have your best 11, drop them in the chat, your whole best 11. Who would you throw out there? Let us know on Facebook or on YouTube. Just love to see who you got out there and maybe who you were excited to see last night if you stuck around for the alumni match. Guys, we're wrapping up the show here and with our final thoughts here. And so let's keep it in the kind of the 10-year anniversary, the alumni of FC Cincinnati. If you could wrap up this segment with your final thought in days gone by for FC Cincinnati, what would it be? Nick?
I just have to show some appreciation to FCC as a whole. I moved to Cincy right at the tail end of 2017, 2018. One of the only people in town I knew was like, you've got to go to an FCC game. It's the biggest thing in town. I went there a few games during their last USL year and I was hooked. I got season tickets for the first MLS season and it's just been a source of joy. It's not just watching the team, but getting to know a lot of fellow fans. We all have our tradition. We do pregame at Ryan House before the game. We've met so many good people in the community. It's just been a fun community to be a part of. So cheers to 10 years of that and cheers to 10 more years of getting to know even more people associated with this wonderful team.
Yeah. Good thought there. Nick, Jason.
Man, I remember distinctly watching that first FC Cincinnati home game and seeing Shauna Coley make that kick from the suburbs of Salt Lake City, Utah. I remember where I was when I saw the tweet of, I think DJ Schweitzer was the one who shared it, but the rumor in 2015 that this thing was happening, I remember where I was when I saw that. Again in Utah, but for me, I've told this story before, but I'll always I'm happy to share it. Is I was transplanted to Utah, and there was no FCC when I left, but when I was out there, I saw the announcements, and I immediately knew my favorite sport, the sport that I grew up playing in the Cincinnati area, we were going to have a pro team, and the people that were behind it were going to take it seriously. And I knew from the start they were going to treat it like a major league club, and they did. And it honestly gave me more of a connection to home than the Reds or the Bengals did. Because even though I was not in Cincinnati, I've made so many buddies and friends just from the old Real Snark Lake days on Twitter, interacting with FCC fans. And and it's turned into working with you guys on Cincinnati Soccer Talk and being able to meet some really cool people. And, and to see that it's lasted 10 years and that I was walking into the stadium with my wife and we went and sat down and somebody's family, grandma and grandpa were there cheering them on. I was like, this just feels awesome. And, big ups to Carl Lindner and the ownership for giving us something special. And here's to 10 more years. Hopefully a few more stars on the crest,
a couple shields, a couple stars. Yeah. Jason, like you, I am a transplant. I live in obviously Fort Wayne, but I grew up in Cincinnati. It's the city I still consider home. And soccer's always been my sport. I gave up other sports early on and soccer was my thing. And so when Cincinnati was getting this team that in a league that honestly I didn't know much about, USL, I didn't know what was going on, what league they were playing and what level it was going to be. But I was excited that Cincinnati was getting a soccer team and to hear, like you said, the ownership who was coming around it to make it something they were taking it seriously. I started listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk those early years, and Cincinnati Soccer Talk was the thing that kept me connected to the team. I didn't get a whole lot of other news up here in Fort Wayne about FC Cincinnati, and Cincinnati Soccer Talk was the team that I tuned into. I know there were other podcasts, but this is the first one I found, and it's the first one it's the one that stuck. And to think 10 years later, 8 years later, I got to be a part of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. 10 years later, and a few years after that, I'm hosting Cincinnati Soccer Talk. It's just this is a bit of a dream of mine to be this close to a team that matters this much to a city that I love as much as I love Cincinnati. So again, cheers to 10 years, as you guys have already said. As a an honorable mention, I just wish the ref would have given him a red card last night, just for old time's sake. I think they missed an opportunity. Loved watching that guy play. Loved his passion, but man, he collected red cards about every
Yes, he did.
game. And I just wanted to see that just for old time's sake last night. But anyway, guys, thanks for being here on the show. Good thoughts tonight. Thanks for the conversation about the referees. Thanks for the conversation about Cincinnati soccer against Charlotte. Thanks for the conversation about the alumni. Thanks for joining us in the chat here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We will talk to you next Monday night. We'll see you.